Welcome to the Knackly training on how to create your first, start automating your documents and your first estate plan. So in this video, I'm going to go over how to do a will based on the estate planning model that we've created. Now, first off, please go through our getting started training courses, because you need to understand that information that we lay out in there prior to starting to use your documents, because I'm not going to be explaining a lot of the concepts behind it. I'm going to assume that you understand the concepts that were taught previously. So I'm going to start here with my state training. I'm going to go First off, I'm going to log in online. I'm going to go to the designer, and you'll see that you'll have an estate plan and a Knackly training here. The Knackly training is for you to be able to play around with, add variables with, go through the initial training with. That's what the design of the Knackly training is. Now we're going to go into your estate plan now. And the first step I'm going to do is you will have some of these documents already in here. It may adjust over time, but I want you to go through and create a new template. So I'm just going to say client will. I'm going to do it as docx. I'm going to click save, and now I'm going to upload it. And just go to my file system, and open it. This has no automation in it. It's the starting point. So what you'll want to do is take your will as a starting point, or you can do another document, but if you want to follow along with yours, you'll actually upload your will into the system. Now I'm going to go ahead, minimize, I'm logged into the Knackly Designer. It's going to show estate plan and Knackly training. I'm going to click on estate plan. You'll see that I've got three options here. Actually, if I reload it, I'll have one more option. So client will. So now I've got all the client. And the way I'm going to approach this document is I'm going to first go through and insert all of the variables that are part of the original model. Then once I've got that original model, all those variables, I've gone through and done that, and I want to then add more of your where you want to add your own variables, then we'll go through how you can do that. So my first step here is I've got the client, so I'm just going to make use of my, and I wanted this to be a full name, so I'm going to make use of the templates, and you'll see me use that quite often. This was set up for you already. The full name combines your first, middle, and last, and I just go through and insert it. So attorney, I've already got attorney, and that we have that under matter. So if I do a selection and then double click name, that's going to give me the name. And then of course your document will have your information here. Okay. Now I can go through, I can go into my footer, and you will have a full copy of this when we're done. It's not a document that you'd want to use for your client, but it's there designed for you to be able to have it to be able to use as a reference point. So on state, when I click state, I can do the full name or I can do abbreviation. I'm just going to put the full name in here, put my space, and then get my zip code. And I can just double click out of there. And because of the way this document is set up, it actually has two different footers. So I will actually go in and do the second footer. I could certainly just copy from the other footer if I wanted to. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and save it. So I save it along the way so I know if I've got any errors, that if I messed up anywhere, it's easier to keep track of. If you see any, if there are errors, it's going to give you a list of where those errors are. All right. Okay, so client, the full name, I'm going to get show. So under, oops, need to put templates, client, full name. You'll see insert content with formatting. If I want all uppercase, I can just click uppercase and it'll bring it in. It'll give you your and one thing to note here, because the style is set up as upper, we actually need to change this. I'm going to actually do it to normal. Because I need, when we so if you run into something like this, you'll go up here, do sentence case, to my formatting. What I end up doing is getting rid of the style here, and then I can bold it. I can bold this as well. So, but this upper will bring that full name into uppercase. Now I can do client, full name, and here I have I actually want this to be an inline address, and you'll see that we have an inline address option over here. So inline address, block address would put it down onto multiple lines. So I've got my client full name, client inline address, and my language. So now now I come to my first conditional option. So in this case is if I'm married, I want this information to come in, otherwise I want to skip it. So when the document comes in. So if I'm married, so I'm going to do a conditional logic here, and I see how I have married, and to keep my formatting the same, I'm actually going to just insert it is equal as opposed to highlighting it, and then I'm going to cut it and paste it. Else would mean that if they aren't married, then you could have different paragraph in there. That will be on the children. Okay, so one thing to note about Knackly is if I do a if statement around a paragraph, I can't ever put like if married right here and then an end if on a new paragraph. I would need to always have the if statement surround the paragraph. I can certainly put an if statement within a paragraph, but if you are trying to go around multiple paragraphs, you'll just need to have it so that the if statements have their own line breaks. So my spouse's name, and one thing I've done before this is I actually went through and kind of what I call a markup. I went through and gave me little helps to know, okay, I'm going to bring in certain things here. So I know so this one's if I have children, and there are other ways to do it, but this is kind of the simplest way to handle it. undo that. Got styles in my document. Okay. Now I've got children. So here I'm going to come back to this one a little bit later. I have one child. There are things that you can do in Knackly to say I have one child or I have 5 children. There's things that we can do, but we're actually going to cover that in a later video on how to handle the children. So in this case, I'm just going to say I'm going to just list all I have my I'm just going to say instead my chill, and I'm going to make the R, and I'm going to insert a list of children. So now I'm going to go to my children, the party list. I have information within here, but I just want at this point to list all the children that are going to come in. So I'm going to actually click on the menu option here and insert the list. What this did is that it inserted all the list information. Now what I do need to do here is I need to put their full names in. So if I do full name, so I'll just double click on that, you'll see it brought in children, but because it's already within a list, I actually will just put full name because it already knows that I am talking about the children. Okay, and so here's a list. Now what if I want to have some punctuation here? What would I do there? What you can do is go to your help and then go to list items. You'll see that I've got list, children, and then I got my different punctuation options. So I'm just going to grab that, and what this will do is it'll list John, comma, Mary, comma, and Susan. It will list it there. If there's only one, it will just list one. If there's two, it will say John and Susan. So you've got that information. Let's go back here. And I'm just going to do a paste special. Alright, so now everything is in there. You'll see I have after born children. I'm going to highlight it because that's going to be an additional question I'm going to ask later. But for now, I'm just going to go through, and I'm going to just keep using the variables that we've already created. Okay, now I'm just going to scroll down. Oh, I see I have a married section. So if someone is married, then I'm going to put this information in. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the if is married. I'm going to just go ahead and insert my if statement there. And if they are married, so if it's true that they're married, then I'm going to insert it. You could do is not and insert it that way. But in this case, I'm going to do if married, and I do not want the style to take that. And then I'm going to cut that just because I put it around the if married, and that's because of the word styles that are in this document. I did that. And I can get rid of this underline too. And then I'm just going to put the end if down here. Once again, this is kind of stylized document, so you shouldn't have this as much in yours. Okay, now I've got another, so this provision will come in if I'm married. If not, it will skip it. So I'm going to go ahead and click save and see if I have any errors. Document has error, field 9 has no matching end if. So I'm going to click on field 9 and I can go to that. Okay, so I think it's because of that. Then I'm just going to turn on this paragraph. Just going to make sure I've got if, and if, if, and if, if, and if. Okay. Now I'll just refresh it. I'll click save. Oh, I also have a children punctuation because I didn't copy that part of it over. And all right, has errors, refresh, and save. Okay, now it's uploaded. So you'll see that errors will show up and you can quickly find them if you click the go to field. All right. Now I'm going to continue on down. This section I also want to, this part of the residual area I want to come in if they're married. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Insert that. I'll get rid of that. And I'm just going to cut that. I will delete if married. And then I'm just going to scroll down here because I know that this is where I want that to end if they're, so I said end married. That way I would remember. Okay, so now that gave it for if it's married. Now this is, I've got a if outright. I'm going to do that a little bit later when I show you how to add more variables. So I'm going to skip that for now just as a reminder to myself. I'm going to highlight it so I remember to take care of it. I am going to go ahead and save it. I find the more often you save, the easier it is to find. And you'll see conflicting changes. That's okay. Just click refresh because I've already saved it. Save it again. Okay. I just find the more often you save, the quicker, easier it is to find any things that are wrong. Okay, so same with the credit shelter. I'm going to go through and wait. Once I've got everything else into the document and I've tested it, then I'll show you how to handle that situation. Same with will option distributions. I'm going to highlight that and end credit shelter. So now I want to say if I'm single, so if I'm not married. So now we're go to married if statements. Now I'm not, so I'm going to actually put it is not. And you'll see the syntax here is in front of true false. You just put a exclamation point. And the else again would be used if I wanted to put information in based on the first condition not being true. Okay, so here I've got if children, so I'm going to put insert that is true. Oops, I got rid of the this is why I like having the paragraph markers on there when I automate. And go ahead and save it. Yeah. And I'll just do a quick refresh right after. Okay, so now list so now I'm getting to the executors. When I do executors, I have, this is actually, have that as part of it. I have the fiduciaries as part of a table so that I can, and these are centered within a table. So I'm going to first put my list of executors, and the way I'm going to do that is we've put those in will, and I'm going to put a list of client executors in. So I'm just going to select that, insert list, and then I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to put it after the oops, undo. Keep doing that. So now I've got my executors set. My list will happen so I can have multiple executors and they'll go in a row here. You could just as easily put this in paragraph form and say here's a list of executors, and I could put this in paragraph form and do very similar to what I did with children and list the executors out, basically doing the same thing as I did here. Okay, now let's finish this off. So this one's a little bit different. So in the fiduciary, I'm actually doing a drop-down box. So this acts a little bit different, and it's an agent list. So I will go ahead and double click on fiduciary. You'll see it gave me a little bit more than I wanted. So client executors, but I already have will and client executors up here, so I can actually shorten this. And then I just need to add something. So fiduciary gives me a variable, and then it says who it is, and then I just need to say, so then I'll put full name. And in other videos we describe how to handle this, but this just gives you a way to quickly get through it. So fiduciary full name, and that will give me the full name of the person that was selected. And I'll show you when we actually, I'll upload it here in just a minute and show you how that will come in. And then in here I didn't do a co-executor, so I'm going to skip that, but we are going to come back to what I would do if I wanted co-executors. Okay, now I'm going to click save. Okay, and I'm just going to refresh so I remember. Now I'm going to come back here to Knackly Training. I want to now test what I've got so far. I've got this client will here that you put in previously. I just need to add this client will to an app. So I'm going to do a new estate plan. I'm going to actually delete that. Click on my templates and put my client will in there. And I'm going to click save. Now if I go up to estate planning, I create a new record, new estate plan. Now if I say if it's a married couple, it gives me the spouse. Do I have any children? It lists all the children. This is also for if you want to enter anyone else. So if I go through and put in John Martin, Mel, I could fill out the rest of the information, but for this example I'm not. And Jane Martin. And I show that she has the same address. So that information comes in. That's not coming in from the will, it's from one of the other documents that we put in there. Then I can put in any children, fill out the information there. But when I get to will, I now have client executors. You'll see I now have my drop down. And this is basically if I select Jane, if you remember in the document I put full name, so then fiduciary is the drop down and full name is the variable that I want to pull from. So that's how that works. If you do want to do this easier, you could just you could create a variable just called an executor and type it in as well. So alright, let's keep going down. Now I'm going to do guardians, so I'm going to list my guardians. Same thing that I did for executors. So in the will, I've got a guardian, so I'm just going to insert list. And I will delete that part. And then I will put it right there. Okay. Then I can insert guardian, fiduciary. I can just double click on it. Again, I've got will guardians there, so I'll actually take that off. And I'll add full name. I've got my guardians. Now, up here, I probably should say, do I have any children, or have a question of, do I have any guardians? In this case, I'm just going to say it based on children. I realize that in your estate plan, you may have older children that do need children that are older that would need it. So we could do some age here, but I'm just going to say for this case, I'm just going to say that to keep it simple, if I have children, I'm going to bring in guardian provisions. I could, and we will do this in later videos, show you how to base that on age, so you can do a conditional logic. So I'm going to do an if statement. If I were doing this, I think I would actually create another variable asking if I want to have guardians, as opposed to doing this based on children. So if children, fiduciary name, that brings in all of my information there. And I could do some guardian compensation too, a question based on that, which I'm going to highlight to show you a little bit later. Okay. That's most of it. I do IRA distributions would be another new variable that I would want to create. And then I want to show you down here when we get to signing. So in witness, I have some options here. I can leave it like it is, but I'm going to first do client. Full name. Give me my template options. And witnesses, I'm going to leave blank. So what happens if I want in witnesses there, if I subscribe this day of, I'm going to highlight this because I'll show you how you can add that so you can get the day of in your dates. And same here. If I wanted to have a date. Okay. Now, here I want to say client. So I'm going to add client, full name. Now you see, in this case I want to say the gender, but I want it to say testator or testrix instead. So I'm going to come up here and do gender, and you see how we have the testator, so we can insert that. And it came to the next line only because it ran out of space when it's in your document. Unless the name is super long, it's going to say it. So testator, you will see. I'm going to close out of there. Save and complete that. Gender, then we have testator, testatrix. So based on gender, we put that in. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and click, I'll refresh it, and then do a save. Okay, so I have added all these variables based on the model that we gave you, and that gets you a fair amount of the way to getting your documents automated. Now let's look at what that document will look like. So a new estate plan, I'm going to review and update. I'm missing some information, so let's get some children here. Mary Jones, female. You could say it's same address. Anyone else to refer to? So this will give you information in the drop down. I'm just going to exit out there, and then we can go into the will. So these are the executors. These are the executors. I'll add a guardian too. Guardian of their own children. That's not good, but to show you how this works. And then matter, I'll select the attorney. I'll click complete. And now I've got last will and testament of John Martin. I've got information resident of. I should get that filled in. I realized that I just missed that. If afterborn children. So now let's just make a couple of adjustments here. So just to show you, so we have the inline address. So it gave spaces there, and that's because in our party object, which is where we store everything, if you do inline address, we put else's after. So this brings in a blank because I didn't fill out the information that I need. So that's why that came in. All right. Now I've got some more variables that I need to add here. The first one is afterborn children. We have two ways of doing this. The first way is you could go here and click new variable and add a new variable at the main catalog level. The other option would be is to go within the will object and add all of my will questions there. So I'm actually going to do that. In order to do that, I'm just going to come here to my designer, and you'll see variables. I see will. I can click on will, and it gives me my client, executor, spouses, or guardians. What I'm going to do is do a true false and say afterborn children. I'm going to save that, but what I'm going to do is I can put some help text here. So do you want to include afterborn children? I can put that in there. Now I can come back to my document. I can refresh it, and I'm going to highlight there, go to will, insert with if statements. So what you'll notice is that and the reason why I like having the paragraph marker on is I can see spacing. So children, I actually would want to remove that space, because if I don't, then I have a space before the period. So I got my spacing there. That looks good. Okay, now I can move to the next thing. All right, so if I want outright, or in this case, I have two options. I have outright or I have credit shelter. I have two approaches I could take to this. I've shown you the if statement before, so I could do a if outright and then do a true false based on that, and then do a if a true false based on it being credit shelter. But in this case, I want to do it as a selection because I really want it to be either or. I'm going to go in to will, and I'm just going to say type. I'm going to do it as a selection. And with this, I can do outright or credit. I'm just going to say credit because that's shorter. And this is actually going to only come in for if they're married. If they're single, then it's going to give a little bit different residuary type. And you could certainly build this out and have something, if they're single, have another option here. All right, I'm going to click save. I'm going to refresh it. Okay, so we've got will residuary type. So I'm just going to come up here. I'm going to say insert if. So if will is equal to, and I see outright there, it filled in what I've put. So I'm going to do outright on this one. I'll delete that. I'm just going to highlight to get rid of that highlighting. Remove the highlighting. No color. Did I do that right? Got another trick. I can use the format painter. It's always good to remove these beforehand. So outright, then I'm going to come down here. I think I've got a still in my paste. Yep, I still got diff. Okay, so that gives me, and yeah, that gives me my end if there. Now I can do the same thing for credit shelter. So residuary type is, I'm going to say credit. And this is my end of the credit shelter. And that's how you would do a selection. If I go ahead and save this, see if I get any errors. Okay, now I come here, I'm going to reuse this again. And you'll see I now have, do you want to include afterborn children and the residuary type? So those questions are there. A lot of times I'll actually leave this up, and right after I click, after I update and save it, then I just do a refresh here, and then I can see what changes were made. So just as a tip. Now, withdrawal rights. Such child have right to withdraw. So, and this is only in the case of a credit shelter, just because of the way the document works. I'll do that one first, then we'll do the one up top. So, withdrawal rights and description. I'm going to do this as a text variable, but I'm going to do a couple of different options on this text variable. Okay, so I'm going to go to designer, and I'm going to go to will, and just give me, so withdraw rights description. So I'm going to call this credit withdrawal. I'm going to do it as a text so that we can get that right. So this will be a text so that they can put whatever they want in there. But I want to actually give some suggestions. So what I can do is do fixed values defined below, answer suggestions, and then I can type whatever options I want to have here. So these aren't necessarily anything that you'd want to do, but just to give at age 25, just so we have so you can see how that will come in, and click save. So I've created the variable. Now I'm going to come back here and put my withdrawal rights. I'm going to get rid of my yellow highlighting. And if I wanted one more space there because it's after a colon, I can do that. I'm going to refresh. And credit withdrawal, double click that. And click save so I can show you how this will look. All right, now I'm going to look at the document. I click outright and click credit, and now I've got that comes in. I could put at age, I could also, and at, so you could add more there. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the next one, which is withdrawal rights description. Actually, let's see, I think we got, that actually would be the same, so I would just come up here. Do will withdrawal. Okay, and add those. All right, now we'll just keep going down. Now I want to add co-executors. This does get more complicated when you start adding different layers to this. But what I'll do is I'm going to go to my designer. If I click on the will and I click on, I'm doing client executors. If I click on this agent list, it'll take me to the agent list, and you'll see that I have a fiduciary selection, and I have potential agents, which is tell me who's going to be the agents. What I would do here is I would do 2 as a selection, and then I would paste that in. First, yeah, you could adjust the labels to get it the way you want them to. All right, so I've saved that. Now let's come back here. I'm going to refresh it. Going to go to will, then client executors, and I'll see fiduciary 2. Click on, I'm going to remove this first. I'm just going to double click, and once again I'm going to remove find executors because I'm in a list, and put dot full name. And now when I update it, it will give me the option to have both of them there. So I'm just going to click save. And under will, you'll see I can now have multiple. Okay. All right. Now moving down the document, I wouldn't need co. You could do co. People do co-guardians. It'd be the same process. Guardian compensation. So I want to add a compensation. I'm going to go to the designer under the will and just say I'm going to do it as a true false. Will the guardian be compensated? Okay. Oh, back to go to the will. I'm going to remove, and this one you'll see we have a else in it. So guardian shall be compensated. I'm going to insert it with an if, and I didn't highlight because I want to get this else in there. Okay, so if they want to be compensated, it will say shall be. If we say no to that, it says shall not be. All right, so now we'll keep going down through the document. I said I would give you the day of. So this would be I'm going to do this under matter, witnessing. So let's go ahead and come back here. Estate planning, matter. I can certainly just click on this and take it. So I'm going to do a date. I'm just going to say signing date. Put that in there. Now, now go back to my refresh it. I'm going to go to matter, signing date. And I got some so if I've got some different ways that this is formatted, and so this will say first day of January 2019, and that gives me, so it will give that, and I can do the same thing here. In Word, it's going to give the ST will be notated. It's just in the programming, you can't really do that. All right. I click save. And I have everything updated here. I'm just going to go to estate plan. And now I'm going to finish everything so I can just see that everything's working the way I expect. And if I needed to collect, if the document asks for phone number, it asks for phone number. Children, no one else. I've got, will guardian be compensated? I'm going to say yes. Matter, I'm going to put my signing date tomorrow. Click complete. Last will and testament of John Martin. See, I've got John Martin, I've got his address in there, there's a spouse, my children are, all references to child. This is certainly, I'll show you how you can change this, because it is a little bit more advanced, but I think it's helpful for you to know how to do it. So let's go ahead and make that change. Okay, so now I want to say if my child or children, because I want to know if there's only one, I only want one to come in. If it's more than one, I want it to say children. So the way I would do this is I would do my children. So children is part of a list. I have a 1 to as many children as you can have. I'm going to put an if statement. So if children, then we'll bring it. So if child, I'm going to put children here. Okay. Actually would want something there too. Let's see. If child is, if children are, and what I can do here, actually I'm going to swap these because this will make it easier. Because what I know is if you have children, you're going to at least have one. So if children, so what I need to know is if the number of children that they've entered is more than 1. So you can go through and put length, which is basically telling me that I need it to be, oops, I got to spell length right. And then I'm going to say greater than 1. So what this is going to do is it's going to look and see if I have more than one child listed, then it's going to give me children are. If I have just basically one child listed or 0, but if it's 0, the whole paragraph's not going to come in, and then it's going to say is. So we'll have that information to make sure I did this right. Let's refresh. Save. Okay, now I'm going to come here. I only have one child. Complete. Let's see if I did it right. This is a moment of truth for me. My child is. So if I had multiple in there, and my children are, it would put it in. So that, in a nutshell, is getting your first, your will done. The next step would be to do it for your spouse. If you do want to, we do have a way that you can do what we call mirroring. I recommend doing a JumpStart or consulting services to help you get that initially set up. It is more complicated. If you don't want to go through and do that, we do have videos out there on how to do mirroring, but it is, just to warn you, it is more complicated. I would add that later or have us help you. So now I would just go through, I'd add my spouse's will, so I could go ahead and spouse will. I'm going to do it as a docx. I'm going to save it, and then I would upload it to here, follow the same process, go through Word, add in based on the spouse and how you'd bring that in, and then under apps, you will have templates, and just bring in your spouse will so that you have that as part of your app. And you click save. So we look forward to continuing to help you with other videos and making it so that your estate plans are, you're being more efficient with them. Thanks.